So this is just a snapshot of what he would have presented, and please comment along the way, and anyone actually, because this is the EU level activities of public procurement for innovation and the PCP. So I go straight to there. There's a huge potential, simply a must, he asks, in terms of a great number of sectors like healthcare, climate change, energy efficiency, transport, and all of that. There is a big agenda that is his message, and the public sector actually faces a lot of these challenges. So there is a big case for pushing innovation procurement to a greater extent than is actually done currently. So why this innovation procurement? Win-win for everyone involved. That is suppliers who will be able to develop better products, economies of scale in most cases, wider market size, shorter time to market because of this boost or push. Politicians or the policymakers, improve quality, efficiency of public services, focus on innovation, on political priorities, increase employment and stimulate the innovation systems and the local ecosystem. And the procurers, of course, getting the best products, saving money, create efficiencies, and improve the services. So innovation procurement will be the tool that enables potential buyers to steer industry, research and innovation to its needs. It's underused in EU, as the figure then suggests. It is much bigger in the United States, if you read the figures. And basically a large difference also within Europe. That's sort of the same figure that I sort of put up in the morning. With especially UK and France in the general procurement sense are the big players, and they therefore also would have the biggest potential maybe to use this as a policy, maybe much more than of course the other ones that are small players.
But just for the records, the figures that they have, for the records, the figures that they have in compare between US and the EU, that would need a whole seminar to make clear what the. I mean, the 50 billion are, I think, composed of the 2% SBIR budget in different agencies, and how much that leads to reprocurement of products and services as compared to R&D services, and so on. And I'm very skeptical in terms of 15% PPI. I would love to know where this figure comes from.
Yeah, Lena, maybe you have the answer.
I don't have the answer, but I have a lot of arguments. 2 years ago, we had a high-level seminar with the commissioner present, Commissioner Moira Goiven-Queen, and I had a budget to ask US colleagues to come and prepare a paper and come and present it. So I contacted David Mowry, you all know, and I thought he would be the best person. And I sent a message and said, David, I would like you to come and present the US case on public procurement of innovation. And he sent an email back asking, what is public procurement of innovation? We don't have that in the US. He was, of course, joking because he knows the literature. But the point he wanted to make is that we always think the US has public procurement of innovation, which is not what we call public procurement of innovation, but has a whole series of different tools. Because I'm sure in this PPI, there's a DARPA budget, and the DARPA budget is not PPI. There is this, as Jakob says, the SBIR budget. So what David says is, I can prepare a paper and talk about mission-oriented research in the United States. Mission-oriented research is a different story. There's a lot of mission-oriented research in France. But it's not public procurement for innovation. So there is an overlap, and I think we could write a paper or maybe a book with different definitions and trying to identify budgets here and there. And I think the most important thing is, don't forget that in the US you have the whole defense budget in there, whereas in the EU all the budgets exclude defense, which is mainly France and UK, but this data is not defense.
Very good. So, evidence on impact from the successful examples, sort of success stories, not stories, but at least the indicators of this success. Shortening of time to market for the companies. Like for example, UK National Health Service says PCP examples achieve reduction from several years to 18 months. How they come to that is, I don't know. Attracting venture capital, that may be also an interesting aspect. Creating lead markets, we have been touching upon this from time to time already. In retaining lead market position, which is possible then through sustained PCP procurements over time. It says 20% cheaper products and high product quality, evidence from US defense, multi-competitor, I don't know what he means by this, but anyway, cheaper products and better quality is certainly an interesting point, very important point. Removal of supply lock-in, that is also maybe an interesting issue, especially in sectors where there are lock-ins present, so that strong demand from this kind of practice or policy could actually be a mean to sort of shake up inertia. And also benefits on the local economy in many cases through various spillovers. So why rational supporting demand of innovation and procurement? Potential level for action says 80-90% of EU GDP. Delivering better services, especially on facing societal challenges. These figures up there, I have no ability to comment. I wouldn't know. You have been worked in these fields much more. You may be able to say something about them. But anyway.
Last time we worked on it was 16, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Foster and accelerate access to market for innovative solutions. We have been into that already. And foster EU internal market to benefit the business community in general. And also the idea of policy mix that we have also been touching upon. And the international rising field that is also evident in terms of innovation support policies. Main difficulties for procurers to purchase innovative solutions, that the wrong incentives on the procurer side, that they are not incentivized to do this from the demand side or the procurement side. Lack of knowledge and capabilities on technologies, innovations and developments. There's no strategy often that aligns public procurement with public policy objectives, you know, in various policy areas like health, environment and transport. And not also, that is again your point, to link it with the supply side instruments like research and development and so on, those kinds of support programs. Demand very fragmented, so it's difficult sort of to aggregate them into something that is a real demand. Difficulties for innovative SMEs to be involved in public procurement as direct beneficiary or client or purchasing authority. Yeah.
What is the main reason SME cannot involve directly in the public procurement as direct beneficiary?
It's difficult for me to elaborate on what he has written, but I guess Lena, you could start, and then Max to comment on this, because I guess it's also an important issue. So
They don't have the references and the bank guarantees. SMEs have fewer means and lower track record. There is a very interesting story. I don't know where it stands at the moment. From here in Paris, there was a group of small technology-based startups or young companies, not necessarily startups, which have their networked offices in Rue Richelieu. That's why it's called the Comité Richelieu. And they have been pushing in the European Commission to organize public procurement in a way to allow access for young innovative SMEs to public procurement. This is a couple of years ago. I don't know what has happened to it, but I think it's an interesting story to hear what went on.
Max?
Yeah, as Lena alluded to, typically the administrative capability of smaller firms are not really matching the requirements of administrative stuff you need to comply with in order to make a bid. Then you can also have, if you actually do submit a bid, then you also need to, you have this challenge to allocate resources for a project which you don't need, which you don't know if you will get. And then there is a tendency that procurers make contracts which are implicitly intended for larger firms. And they're not so open to consortia or smaller debundling of larger contracts, which would make it harder for SMEs to participate. So there are these things. But then I would also like to make a comment on that. When you look at why SMEs should be promoted, it becomes a little bit tricky. You see lots of people who say that, and sometimes when you see references in academic literature, these references go to others who sort of say that in general. And if you try to look at the evidence, are SMEs more innovative than bigger firms? Then the evidence is very inconclusive. There were these were studies done some years ago now, and the last of them concluded that maybe the size is not the issue; it's other things.
Yes,
Yeah, and so if and here again comes this policy thinking: should you promote something because they are delivering whatever you want already, or do you promote it because they're not doing that, because you want them to do it? And either way, it's really hard to say, because as far as I have seen in the literature, the evidence, at least on general levels, are inconclusive.
I think that's the idea that the SMEs are to be given preference. Often comes not from the idea that they may be more innovative, but they are the big sort of underwood creating jobs, and therefore you have to make them more innovative. That's my sort of gut feeling, but I may be wrong. Jakob?
We underestimate the benefit that SME have from public procurement because we don't look at the supply chain. Many of the things that go to large companies, then of course they are subcontracts to all kinds of small companies. So direct access might be limited for reasons that two have mentioned, but there's a lot of more benefit for SMEs through the supply chain.
Indirectly, yeah. Okay, let's continue. What can countries and regions do? Political encouragement, I think, same as your argument about political support being key. Modernizing public sector as a priority, that there is a political push to do this, and also to maybe implement targets for this in budgets and policies. On the implementation side, innovation procurement competence centers and training and actually capacity building in implementation. And there are some examples mentioned there. Encourage the demand side to meet the supply side. That is early notification of innovation procurement needs or needs that may be relevant for procurement. And open market consultations lead to buyers events so that there is a sort of an awareness and information available also in the business community on how this is foreseen to happen. And also leverage EU funding, that's his position concerning the Horizon, and also this new things about financial instruments in Horizon with the link to the European Investment Bank. Yeah. So, Sarah?
Yeah, just a comment. Within that there is the SME instrument that's now open. That's, the first deadline was the 18th of July, and actually there were 2,200 applications received by this EU research. And I'm part of the Access to Finance Advisory Group for Horizon 2020. And there will be a new call called Fast Track Calls that will be also open in January, more dealing also with fostering the participation of SMEs, more on the technology transfer side. So I think it's a new program that will be open under Horizon 2020, really focused on SMEs.
Yeah, there's a lot of SME talk. Max?
I just have a small thing as someone who works at university, and in particular most of my students are business school students, and since now 2 years I've been having a small short course in public procurement or innovation on a master level, and one of the comments I received from these fifth year students is that this is the first time we study the public side of business. And so from universities, and in particular business schools, engineers, this could also be introduced in the curriculum.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on. This is a figure showing the greater and growing impact from 2008 and onwards, how this is beginning to sort of take shape. More and more countries is using it, so it's actually the story that we have been visiting many times now, that this is a growing and increasing field of policy attention. And this also comes up here, the progress of implementation, learning from first movers. The upper figure part of the figure is from 2007, and you see the difference in 2014, in the sense that there's a lot more countries involved in actually starting pilots and be let's say far ahead in the let's say policy cycle. While earlier on in 2007, much more attention of countries were only limited to the early stage of awareness raising, exploring possibilities, working out the frameworks and so on. So this has been a process of maturing, reading from this figure. What is EU doing on innovation procurement? I don't want to read through all of this. This has been a process of development through a number of policy statements and communications and so on and so forth. Lena and Jakob, I guess you know the whole story about this. But it ends up via the priority in the Innovation Union flagship that came around in 2010, that gave a clear priority for innovation also in the Horizon 2020. And through the also public procurement directives, first calls on the Horizon 2020, and launching of PPP awards and the platform. There's a big sort of interactive platform for both suppliers and procurers available. So in here, in the call of 2014-15, 114 million euro has been made available for this kind of consortia building around public procurement for innovation. So it has a lot of other stuff on what the EU is doing, as I sort of scrapped it. But I included some of the examples of, let's say, consortia, and those are also transnational consortia involved in public procurement for innovation. In this case, a network related to CO2-less hospitals, as they call it. the Rotterdam Ultra Efficient Lighting with a support for €2 million. And you see, I think this is an interesting also why this instrument of Horizon 2020 is also now sort of promoting transnational or cross-border networks or consortia from the procurer side. This is a collaboration. These are the. I'm not sure. To be honest, what this is all about. Anyway, the same example of healthy innovation is also about hospitals, about new beds, for example, that they cooperate in actually procuring new, more effective beds. Same with uniforms. So this is an example of in a sector-based cooperation. There is a number of things that various hospitals can cooperate on to develop and implement better equipment, products, and techniques. Another example is the cooperation between local authorities, from 7 of them from 5 EU member states, on elderly care, called Silver, and also on traffic management. Same thing, about crossing 3 road authorities from 3 EU member states to carry out this joint exercise. Virtual road construction, again 3 member states cooperating. And dike burst in the Netherlands, and so on. I will not go into details of all of this, but these are examples that there is a sort of a push towards using the instrument in Horizon 2020, which has a kind of the old requisite or prerequisite to have at least 2-3 partners in the consortium. So there's the same setup as we have been using in the research community now for decades. Of course, this will not take off the same way as a research community, but it's an interesting way of actually using the same logic to promote this kind of innovation policy. There I cut it. So,
and it's also linked, I think, to all this concept of the smart cities. It's also very much fashion within the EC.
Yeah. So, my name is not Bertrand Mert, but I thank you for your attention. Lena, I'll move over there.
No, I think it's interesting. In particular, it's interesting to see that the Commission is really trying hard to make a case. I just wanted to say, from all the examples that were suggested for presentation, you can see that there was Germany, UK, Sweden, Denmark, Sweden and UK, and Germany and UK, and the Netherlands, and so on and so forth. But there is one very interesting example which I know also a little more of, which is Estonia and the electric car. And there again, the Estonian government, that was very intentional, not unintentional, but actually there were more positive unintentional consequences than the intended consequences, because they have built the best electric vehicle recharging network in terms of plugs per square kilometer, or however they mention it. And they managed to get some subcontracting work from, I think it was Mitsubishi, which they did not expect. So, if we look at Estonia and Latvia and Greece and whoever, I'm sure we can find more unintentional examples.
Yes, yeah. No, please go ahead.
That's the comment I wanted to make. And I made with the Hamburg example, you have 2 benefits. You have electric cars, which have all the carbon benefit, and you have all the spillovers that we tend to forget because we think, oh, Mitsubishi has got the... So also in the context of these catching up countries, that is very important. There's so much spillover going on that we just have to look at it and then sell it also as an argument for this kind of policies.
but if the spillovers are so high normally, if this is planned in an effective way, we then turn to the cluster policy issue. You don't see still, let's say, an approach being available through this that you could actually also indirectly stimulate clusters, industrial clusters, because there are, you know, to place or to issue tenders and do innovative procurement in areas, in sectors where you would know in beforehand that there are, let's say, cluster characteristics available. This was an old question. I have another comment. We have actually stipulated a coffee break. Would you like 5 minutes break before we continue, or just continue?
Maybe we can get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And
It would be good to
sit
get a
down.
cup of coffee.
Hmm?
It would be good to get a cup.
Yeah. So just a couple of minutes so we can self-service and we return, because we should be able to do the final discussion now within an hour. I think just to help raise the most important implications for what we have been doing for the context that we have behind, you know, the EU and Southeast Asian relations and international cooperation, and what is in it in this procurement context.